Good evening, everyone. We are back for another Disney review. We're up to the Disney Renaissance. Finally, I think when we first started this retrospective, this was the era of Disney that I couldn't wait to get to, and it seems crazy. We've already reached it. This is the beginning. So we're up to number 28 today. We're of course talking about Little Mermaid, 1989 film directed by John Musker and Ron Clements. And as I just mentioned, the beginning of the Disney Renaissance. It doesn't feel like we've been doing this for 28 weeks. Well, more than 28 weeks. We've had some weeks off here and there for various reasons, technical difficulties along the way. So we've actually been going for longer than that. But it really doesn't feel like it. Like, the fact that we're at Beauty and the Beast in 2 films' time is insane to me. But here we are.
We should do one a year.
Oh my god. No.
28 years.
Oh, don't, because you know what? Now, if I am lucky enough to reach that age now, I'm going to think back to, remember when we did those Disney reviews and we said we should do one a year? We've reached that time now. That's what's going to happen.
I'm not going to reach that time.
Oh. Well, let's not begin this on a downer, because we've got a really fun film to talk about today. Little Mermaid, looking forward to it. We've got a comment already from Brian Emery. Now, he's actually replied to your comment from last week, because you were convinced that Brian Emery was a very, very famous person. And he says, "Hey, Chris and Dale, I am not famous, but thanks for saying I am. And did you know that Jodie Benson, the voice of Ariel, voiced Barbie in Toy Story 3? I think I did know that, but I think I may have forgotten about it.
Did you know that Tom Hanks voiced Woody?
I did.
That's a fact.
He will probably be voicing him again in Toy Story 5, which we're all very much looking forward to, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right, so The Little Mermaid, we'll just dive right into it. Of course, we're going to go into behind the scenes and everything, the significance of this, and the impact that this film had, not only on the company itself, but the future of the company. There's a lot of, it's kind of a transitional film, in a way. It uses a lot of techniques that had come before, that were tried and tested, but it was also pioneering and sort of charging into a brand new era for Disney. With a lot of new technologies coming in and being utilised, and would eventually be utilised in the following film too. So we've got a lot to talk about today, and the film itself. Once again, I'm going to start with you, Dale. The Little Mermaid, what are your earliest memories of this film? Was this one that you watched a lot, or not so much?
I've watched it a lot, and many, many times. I don't remember the first time I watched it, but I know I've watched it a lot as a kid. Yeah, it was one of them. When I watched it again this time round, it was one that my opinion of it was, it's great, and I watched it and I was like, that's as good as I thought it would be, but no more. Like, it was surprising, and I went in thinking, oh, it's going to be amazing, and it was. But I think, because we spoke about this before, like my expectation was up there, and it hit the expectation. But I've seen it many, many times. I do enjoy it. It's one of the first for a lot of things. Like, it's the first with like a proper, I would say, Disney villain song. Like, the first proper, it went all out. It was the first proper musical. I know we've had musicals, and we've had things in the past, but it was the first proper, this is a musical. It was the first, for many things. And I think for a lot of people, it's probably not the first Disney movie you watch, but it's one of the earliest memories most people have.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned like the music there, and I think it's difficult to say where credit for the success of this film goes to. Do you point it to the directors, directors, writers, the incredible work that all the animators did, and everyone involved in this film, and the voice actors for bringing life into these characters? For me, I think the unsung heroes of this entire film, and really the Disney Renaissance for the most part, is the music work, the score by Alan Menken. And the songs written by him and lyrics by Howard Ashman. I think those two really pioneered the structure, the formula, if you will, for the Disney Renaissance moving forward. And for a lot of films, Disney, moving forward, Disney stuck rigidly to that formula. Pretty much all the ones from the Renaissance itself, right? So especially when we get into stuff like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, all those ones that we grew up on fit that mold and gained massive success because of it. And I think that it is all down to Alan Menken's decision, along with Howard Ashman, to structure this whole film around a Broadway musical style. That the songs within the film form the tent pole of the plot. And obviously you've got like all the writing in between, and the writing still has to be good. The characters have to be fully realised and voiced well, and the film still has to be good. But I think having those checkpoints almost of where the songs, you've got your kind of your intro song that gets you into it with Fathoms Below, and then you've got your I Want song where the protagonist declares what they want with Part of Your World. You've got your villain song, as you mentioned. You've kind of got your comic relief songs in there, almost like you're watching a pantomime or something, or a musical with like Les Poissons, I guess you could say, Under the Sea as well, which is a big bombastic one. It really just hits everything that it needs to, and I chalk that up to the success of this film. In terms of my early memories of the film, I did have this on video as a kid with the very amusing poster for this, which I actually don't have a graphic for to bring up on the screen. But this film got a lot of flack for the very phallic imagery on the poster, and indeed in the movie, which I'll talk about at one point. But on the poster on King Triton's palace, there's a lot of columns, or there's one in particular that looks very, very suspicious. I will say that. But yeah, I had it on video and I watched it a few times, but nothing outrageous. This wasn't on heavy rotation or anything like that, not by a country mile. I'd be watching stuff more like Aladdin or Lion King, Hercules, all the ones that I've mentioned in previous weeks as well. It's one that I occasionally went to. I think a main memory that I have of this film is that I used to be in Cubs then. Cubs, right? That's like, you get badges and you go on activity weekends and stuff like that. You orienteering and things like that.
For like a week.
Yeah, and we did. This is going to sound really dodgy when I say this, but we did like a sleep-in. It's not far from me actually, where I used to go. And we were allowed to watch a video. It was like, we all went there and we slept in there, and then we got picked up in the morning. And I took The Little Mermaid on video with me, and it got voted, and we watched it. Yeah, it does sound dodgy. It does sound dodgy.
That one time at band camp, and we did things, and yeah.
I promise I didn't get I promise that I didn't get a finger in my ass or anything, but like but The Little Mermaid was voted and we watched it, and that's probably one of my earliest memories. It was just, I distinctly remember being in that room.
My memories of Cubs was I got into a fight with this kid. I was there for a week, got into a fight with this kid, and I was asked to never return. So that's my earliest memories of Cubs.
Dale, I think I don't know if you've frozen. It kind of looks like you're frozen, but we've got a fantastic view of your forehead right now. The camera's kind of up, so yeah, we can hear you fine. We can hear you fine. The camera's just frozen. It used to do this, but yeah, you got a wonderful forehead, my dude, and Abbey Road above you as well.
Oh shit! Yeah, there it is.
So let's jump into this then. So. Bit of behind the scenes about this and everything. So apparently, I mean, we used to say this all the time, almost week to week, but this was meant to be one of the very, very first Disney animated films, all the way back in the 30s, sort of debating whether Walt Disney was debating whether this was going to be one of the first, even before Snow White. So I'm guessing they just acquired like a whole bunch of stories to do and started work on them. And I think they'd got into like a few concept art things and story drafts for what they could have done in the 30s, and then obviously it was shelved. After Black Cauldron, I kind of referred to this last week, but Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the chairman for Disney at the time, he got everyone in the room, got all the writers in the room and animators, and got them to pitch different ideas for what their next projects would be. It was called The Gong Show. And Oliver and Company was pitched, which, got picked up. And then the directors of Basil the Great Mouse Detective, so John Musker and Ron Clements, they pitched The Little Mermaid. And it was initially turned down. It was turned down because... the movie Splash with Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks, the mermaid movie? Apparently Disney, or a company I think it was Disney, were working on a sequel for that film at the time, and they thought it would be too similar. So the idea was turned down, but apparently the next day Katzenberg came around to it, and it was given the green light, and thank God it was.
Remember Ants?
I do remember Ants. It was brilliant. It's my favourite.
Yeah, see, it's a similar sort of vibe that I'm getting.
Yeah. Yeah, two things coming out at the same time. It happens occasionally. It's always strange when it does, but yeah, that one always sticks out in my mind. Bugs Life and Ants.
I know. It's like 9/11. They hit two towers at once. Well, not at once, but two things. So, you know.
The Little Mermaid, ladies and gentlemen. The Little Mermaid. Katzenberg, I'm hoping for a bit of a character arc here with Katzenberg, because every time his name gets mentioned and I'm reading, like these behind the scenes things, it always seems like he's trying to fuck everything up. And if he got his way, things would be fucked up. The main one was The Black Cauldron, where he hacked it to pieces and removed 12 minutes of footage. Now, I don't know. Those 12 minutes might not have changed the film all that much. We might still be saying the same things about that movie, and it might have still, been a bomb. But part of me thinks that those 12 minutes could have been something really special and could have really made the film, elevated it above. We really like Black Cauldron, and I think it's like an absolutely fine film, but I think it could have been so much more. That was Katzenberg that hacked it to pieces. And then right now, initially he turned it down because of the sequel ideas to Splash, as I mentioned. He did come around to it, but also he warned the people that the film would earn less because it appealed to female viewers. Now, you absolutely wouldn't hear that nowadays from modern Disney. Hell, they'd probably be trying to make every film appeal to that demographic more than anyone else, maybe. So it's an interesting shift. But eventually he became convinced, and yeah, it was wildly successful, this film, and the impact of it. I mean, it spawned a lot of things, a lot of sequels, prequels, stage musicals,
a TV series,
a recent TV series as well, a live action adaptation.
We don't talk about that one. We don't talk about that one.
No.
We're on about the 90s TV series that's a prequel to the movie.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about.
Oh, yeah, of course, that one too. Yeah,
that one. The only one.
So, this was big. This film was big. The budget was 40 mil and it made 235. So, that's on
and it was
probably
in Kingdom Hearts
subsequent...
1 and 2. And technically 3 as well.
I don't know about Kingdom Hearts 3 yet, do
well,
I?
Technically 3. Technically.
There's going to be Ariel like a character that shows up.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Ariel's in 3.
Yeah.
And she's actually the best summon. It's great. And you get to dance with her. Yeah.
We'll be talking about Kingdom Hearts as well, no doubt. It's going to crop up because, a lot of my memories of this film and enjoying this film are from Kingdom Hearts, specifically the first game. Controversially, maybe, I really like Finny Fun from Kingdom Hearts 2.
That's what I was going to say. That is what's missing from this movie. You watch it again and it's like, where's the Finny Fun? I don't dislike what they did in the second game. I really don't. Like, there's this whole fucking thing of the whole second game. It's all musicals and shit. It's like, why is that wrong? What is wrong with it being a musical? It was cool and it worked and it was fun. The only thing that didn't work, and I really stand by this. Okay, there's 4 things that didn't work, and I'm going to name every single fucking one of them. 1, okay, they brought back Ursula, which is the first thing that's wrong with that is I fucking hate when they bring back characters and she's like, oh, they bring about. Think of something. Right? I hate that for 1. Second, they brought back Ursula when they brought back Oogie Boogie and they brought back Maleficent and they brought back Jafar. And it was like, come on, you've done this already. That's 2 reasons. Now, the third thing, this goes hand in hand with the 4th thing. The third thing that's wrong is when Ariel meets Ursula, it's like, oh, you're Ursula the Sea Witch, as if they've never met before. Right? And this goes hand in hand with number 4, because the 4th thing is they meet and they're like, oh, Sora, Donald and Goofy, like they've met before. And it's like, okay, if you're going to go down one route of you've never met before and use it as, because technically in Kingdom Hearts 1 it's an optional world, realistically you can get through the game without playing the world. If you want to go down that route, they've never met Ariel. But you didn't. You went, oh, we've met Ariel. So why the fuck did no one know who fucking Ursula was? That really pisses me off. But aside from that, it's a cool level.
Well, the Kingdom Hearts franchise, the characters within it aren't strangers to losing their minds and conveniently forgetting about things.
Do you know what?
So...
One thing I will say is in Kingdom Hearts 1, the fact that obviously he wants to explore the human world, the fact he wants to explore other worlds, and he knows about T-Bearer and other worlds, I think that was fucking really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be a number 2.
We need to talk about... do you want to save it for when we talk about the character of Ursula, or do you want to talk about it now while we're talking about Kingdom Hearts?
We don't need to talk about it.
We need to talk about it. No, you know what? Let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now. So this is really interesting. I can't remember when you mentioned this to me the first time. It's a very, very irrational fear you have. Of
I
specifically
don't know.
one moment, one boss level, one specific thing in the original Kingdom Hearts game, if you want to talk about it.
Don't I don't know what the fear is. I don't know what the fear is because I don't know what it is. It's not like I'm scared of water because I like water. Water's cool, but I don't know. But like when you fight Ursa, she pushes you back into the void of water. It's creepy and it makes me put the controller down. I shiver every time, and it's really weird. It took me fucking like months to beat that boss out because I couldn't. I had to put the controller down. I shivered, and it was really scary. And I don't get it, and it still is. I mean, I've gotten better in my. I'm 29 now. I've gotten a little bit better, but still, I'd rather not. Like, I don't get it. I don't know what the fear is. It's not like I'm scared of water. I don't know. It's being lost in something that surrounds you, which is the water, will ultimately kill you, and I don't like the idea of that.
So specifically, it's the Ursula boss battle in the Little Mermaid level in Kingdom Hearts 1, and it's the
Yeah.
attack that she does, which sends you flying
Yep.
back.
It makes me really freaked out, and I'm like, no, I don't like it. I'm okay with that. I don't know. It's being this dark void, and then suddenly you're in darkness, and there's nothing there, and I don't like it. And I know it's not real, but it feels real to me.
It's not really
And
dark though, is it? It's
yeah, but it
the
feels
level
you're
remains
into it.
consistently lit, I think, throughout the entire
But
level.
what if you fall into the wave so far that you get sucked away and you can't come back? It's just no. It's no. I
Oh,
don't
you mean
like it.
if she pushed you outside of that
Yeah,
vortex?
yeah.
Couldn't you
Like,
just like swim back into the vortex?
no, no. Yeah, yeah. Because what if I can't? What if I get lost in there forever? I'm lost forever under the sea in darkness. Like, what if that happens? And that's
Darkness.
what
There you
scares
go.
me.
That's a line that would be in Kingdom Hearts because every single line of dialogue is either
Yeah,
about
yeah. But
heart,
Chernobog
light,
doesn't.
darkness.
Yeah, but Chernobog doesn't freak me out. He throws you back. Oh, you fly back. Like, I'm cool with that. But it's in the water and under the nah. I'm not okay with it. There was this one time I dove into the water and like years ago, and I went at such a force that my trunks flew off and they ended up like ages away and I had to go get them. But I don't think that's related.
It might be. It might be.
That might be the reason I'm scared.
Wow. Yeah. No. I wanted you to share that. This was the perfect one to do it. We had to do it on this one. It just. Yeah. I always get a kick
It
out of
still
hearing
freaks
that
me out.
story.
Still to this day, makes me sad that it's a thing.
So yeah, the film won 2 Academy Awards as well. It's obviously not the first Disney film to win an Academy Award, but it won Best Original Score and Best Original Song for Under the Sea. We mentioned last week we looked at the list at all the different Academy Awards throughout the years, beginning with this and looking ahead. A lot of Disney films from here on in will win Best Original Song of some kind for a lot of their upcoming Disney films, and again, it stands to reason that they definitely put the music, the score, and the songs especially at the forefront, which is massive. Speaking of the of music, I wanted to mention this because I think he died either today or yesterday. Not to bring the mood down too much or anything, but Richard Sherman,
We already
who
did
the
that with
music from
9/11 and Ducky and
that's true.
shit that we. You
But
know,
Richard Sherman, who did the music for Mary Poppins, It's a Small World, did music for the Jungle Book and various other Disney films as well. He passed away at the age of 95. So very, very good innings. Thank you for the notes, and yeah, I mean, like the work that he's done on this, like he is a Disney legend.
speaking of Mary Poppins, did we talk about Dick Van Dyke and the Dolphins? I feel like we've already touched upon this.
Dick Van Dyke and the Dolphins. That sounds like a band.
No, Dick Van Dyke and the Porpoise. That's the thing. It's not a movie. But didn't we touch upon this? That Dick Van Dyke was on like this is the story. This is actually a true story. He was on like a lilo, I think, and he basically fell asleep, and he was on the sea, and he floated away, and he would have died, but the porpoises pushed him back to shore. So he was rescued by porpoises.
I
This
feel
is
like
the
that
truth.
might be a bit of a tall tale.
No. It's a true story. Google it right now. It's a true story.
It's
He would have
true
drowned if the porpoises didn't push him back to shore. He was literally saved by fucking porpoises. It's a true story.
Why hasn't that been made into a film? That would be amazing.
I know, but it's a thing. It's great. I remember found out and I was like, this can't be real, and it fucking is. It's just great. Imagine being Dick Van Dyke and being in that situation. I was saved by a fucking dolphin.
um, yeah. Jumping
Google
into
it.
the
Google it. You'll find that's real.
that's just yeah. That's honestly that's going to be the first thing that I Google after we've done this review. I need to see that. It reminds me of
Google it
Jack
right now,
Sparrow
mate.
when it's like, "How did you get off that island, Jack?" And it's like, "Oh, sea turtles, mate. I lashed them together and made a raft. I was saved by porpoises."
I'm going to Google it right now. I'm just going to make a point. But continue.
Well, while you're googling that, one thing that's really fun about the production of this film, actually. So I mentioned that they'd started work on this during the 30s. They probably didn't get very far with it. There was probably a few concept arts and story ideas and things like that. But it says while they were in production on this film during the 80s, the Disney staff just happened upon the original story and visual developments that they'd done all the way back in the 30s. And a lot of the alterations and changes to the story that they'd written in the 80s for their treatment were exactly the same changes that were made to the story back in the 30s when the original team were working on it too. So that's kind of cool, because we haven't really mentioned this. I haven't read the book. I know some of the changes. You find those articles. It's about like darker endings to Disney stories, from the original book and things like that. And the ending to Little Mermaid is all kinds of fucked up. It's like really, really mean-spirited and nasty. So I get that probably wouldn't work for Disney's MO and, the formula of a Disney film. But yeah, I guess they would have made those changes back in the 30s. They made them in the 80s as well. So that must have been... Like, how did they not know about that, though? I'm just under the impression that Disney has everything archived, they have everything shelved,
Sorry to interrupt, but
No, go
just to say, so he had to rely on the help of a pod of porpoises after apparently dozing off aboard his surfboard. And Dick Van Dyke's ordeal began during an ill-fated trip to his local beach. I woke up out of sight of land, is what he said. I started paddling with the swells and I started seeing fins swimming around me. I thought, I'm dead. But it was wrong. They turned out to be porpoises and they pushed me all the way to shore. That is legit a thing that
But
happened.
wait. This is an account from him.
This is... don't ruin it. It happened. It's so cool. Like, dolphin saved Dick Van Dyke. That's cool. If it happened, it fucking happened. And I would stick with that story forever. Like, that's cool. A dolphin saved my life.
That's amazing. I love that. A
porpoise dolphin thing, isn't it?
JX Editor says, what did Dick Van Dyke use for rope? Human hair from his back. That's what my guess would be. We got Carl says, evening gents, had a good bank holiday weekend. I'll guess you can answer that question first, Dale. Have you had a good bank holiday weekend?
I'm working today, so bank weekend was the thing. I watched Little Mermaid twice. I ate a lot of chicken, which is still in my fridge. So, yeah, it's all right. It would do, but I was at work today, so...
I also ate a lot of chicken. That's just something that I do on a daily basis. Sorry, any vegans or vegetarians watching. Yeah, so I worked Saturday. I have Mondays off anyway, so it's not really a bank holiday for me. It's just kind of normal day at the races, really. But yeah, I've caught up with a lot of practice, done a lot of piano practice today. I hit the gym, as I say, ate a lot of chicken. Watched some behind the scenes on Little Mermaid, researched the movie a little bit, and yeah, call it a day. It's been a pretty good day. JX Editor says, Chris, be honest, when Dale said, I don't want to interrupt, did you think he was about to ask what to do with his... Oh, okay, I get that. That's a Hobbit reference.
What?
That's a very obscure Hobbit reference, but fair play, JX. He says, when Dale said, I don't want to interrupt, did you think he was about to ask what to do with his plate? It's right before the Blunt the Knives song in the first Hobbit movie. That is a deep cut reference for anyone who doesn't know. But I was editing those movies for the best part of 8 fucking years. So unfortunately, every line of dialogue is burned into my mind. Anyway, let's continue.
Do you know what else I have a deep cut? When I met Gary Sharon and I got him to sign Van Halen 3.
Yay!
That must have been quite rare for him.
I love it. I was trying to think, is there any kind of like Do you know like if David Lee Roth was like a keen swimmer or something, or
Nah, I did hike mountains. It's got to be a mountain movie soon, right?
probably, probably.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's talk about characters for this. Then we're going to talk about characters and music. There's a bit more behind the scenes, but I'll sort of pepper that in because the animation for this thing really kind of started to change things for the company. Characters. I don't know if we want to go through them all bit by bit, but we'll just go in with like favorites. Are there any standout characters to you for this one, or
Just Ariel. She's just good. I like her.
you
She's
like Ariel?
she's good to look at. Like that's the main one. I think you know what I really like. She's what I really like about it. It's not just that she's got red hair and she's a mermaid, which is cool. But what I like is the whole fascinated with other worlds, which I think Kingdom Hearts grasped really amazingly. But it's that fascinated with another world, with the whole like something that isn't theirs, and there's this other world outside here, and she's fascinated with it, which I think is really cool. I really like the relationship, the fact that her dad was trying to protect her from the whole what's the line he says, the fact that they basically humans are harpooning, like they catch fish, all that kind of shit, which is like realistically how that they would see us, which I think is quite cool. It goes from this unrealistic kind of thing into the sense of, well, that is how they would see us, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think I really like the dynamic. A question I wanted to ask you now is, now they're a bit older and hopefully wiser of the world, who do you think was in the right, Ariel or King Triton? Do you think he was right to reprimand his daughter, to borrow a lyric from the song? Because it's very quick, and I know it's Disney, and that's why I'm not hung up on it. Where she's like, "Daddy, I love him," and I'm like, "You've literally seen him twice. You know that he's courageous, and he got back on the boat and he saved the dog. He saved Max the dog, who's the best doggo, and he's great. So he's got a good heart to him. He's adventurous. He's courageous. But it's just Disney logic, isn't it? But do you think he was in the right, that she was just acting really impulsive? She was young.
Yeah, but that's the mature kind of logical thing, and I don't think like that. I want to think as an impulsive, let's be happy kind of world, and no, but logically, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just watching it now. I was like, King Triton might be right.
It's that kind of, it's that whole what was it? That whole thing where people say like, when you're a kid you idolize Batman, and as you grow up you realize the joke at a point. It's that kind of thing. You know what I mean? When you grow up you realize, oh, maybe, but when you're as a kid, that's completely, you're thinking, fuck, that's wrong. When you get up logically, you're like, yeah, I kind of get it.
King Triton's got a tough job. Dude's trying to raise, he's a single parent. He's trying to raise 7 daughters. Is it ever said like what happened to the mom? Like it's probably mentioned in like one of the isn't she in the prequel or something? The prequel.
Yeah,
movie?
I feel
I've
like in the third
that.
one something said, but I can't remember. The movie doesn't stand out that much. The third movie was very, like something you watch where you go, I don't really remember what happened, but it probably says it was great.
I remember the second one. I remember watching that a few times. I had it on video. I played the PlayStation 1 game of it as well, I think. I know that was about... It was like his Melody, wasn't it? The daughter, and it was kind of like the reverse plot of this movie. This is about her being a mermaid wanting to get to the land, and then Melody's about growing up on land and dreaming of being in the sea. So it's exactly the same plot. Yeah. Even down to the fact that you have Ursula's sister, which was Morgana, I think it was, or something like that. I think the name was of the character. It was the same plot. It was the same plot, really. I remember Flounder looking really fucking weird in the second one because they age him up.
Was he? Yeah. He was older.
Yeah. I really like Ariel's character, like the character design, like the colour, like the striking, like the bright red hair. I love how it's animated as well under the water, like just how they animate all the under the water segments. That's the majority of the movie, but they did such a wonderful job. It reminded me of, that moment in Pinocchio where he ties like the boulder to his tail, and there's that whole underwater segment. I think it's just absolutely wonderful, and just to see how far the animation's come. And the animation wasn't even that bad in Pinocchio. Like, I think it looked absolutely wonderful, that underwater segment. But yeah, the manpower that they had on this film for the animation, this was given a lot more money and a lot more attention, and it shows. Like, the results are absolutely phenomenal. Interesting enough, I don't know why I know why my brain probably went here in the first place, but you know, Under the Sea, where all the sea creatures are dancing and they're happy and they're singing, and it's like each little clam here know how to jam, yeah, under the sea. The clams are all alive. Ariel has a clam-shaped bra. So, are those clams alive? Do they know where they are? Do they know what they're supporting?
Those are you know when like they know what they're doing, but they're pretending they don't. You know, it's those kind of things where you look at it and you go, you know what you're doing, and then they can't say, but they know, and they're the real MVP of this whole movie.
Yeah, yeah. But I love the voice actress, Jodie Benson. Yeah, she's just incredible. I always got mixed up, and I thought that she did the voice of Belle as well, but I'm pretty sure she just does the voice of Ariel. Isn't she? Who did the voice of Jasmine?
She wasn't Belle. She wasn't Belle. She wasn't. Was she?
I need to see who did the voice of Jasmine.
Oh.
First appearance voiced by. Oh, Linda Larkin? Is that the? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally different voice actress. Ignore me. But she just has that quality to her, I guess. But yeah, it's a great character design. All the character designs in this are pretty great, to be honest. Prince Eric, he's not an awful character. He serves his purpose, and I guess in terms of like speaking roles and screen time, he has a lot more than a lot of the other princes that we've seen in a few of these films, like Snow White and Sleeping Beauty and things like that. He's still a bit of a one-note character, though, to me. Like, I don't think he's a fascinating character by any stretch of the imagination, but he fits that traditional fairy tale story role of the like the dashing prince who yeah, I guess there's a bit more time where he's trying to get to know her. She's a mute at that point, but there's still that connection there, so they spend a little bit more time together than a few other Disney films that we've had. But he's still a bit of a wet fish, I guess, for no better fun. But again, like a lot of these Disney films, and you're going to be sick of me saying this for the next few, the one that steals the show for me is Ursula. It's always the villains. So much personality. The voice actress, Pat Carroll. They actually went through a whole like list of people they wanted to play Ursula, because they didn't want Pat Carroll to do it. Just have a look here real quick at the.
The one thing that stands out, where they're on the ship and they're getting married and all that kind of shit, and like Ursula's alter ego thingy, who is actually really hot, is marrying Prince Eric and all that kind of shit, and she becomes Ursula again. She crawls on the fucking ship, and like that is the creepiest thing. Yeah. I think that's just really cool. That's probably my favorite shot in the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I love that scene as well. And where it's still Vanessa, but it's when Ursula's voice comes back to the character, and she's like, "Eric, get away from her!" And it's just like that voice matched with, that, as you said, very, very attractive Disney character, if we're going to go that far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Pat Carroll wasn't the director's first choice. They wanted B. Arthur, who was in the original Golden Girls TV series, and if JX is still watching, of course, Star Wars The Holiday Special, which is where I know her from. I haven't seen the Golden Girls. But they had a whole laundry list of different ones they wanted, including, but not limited to, Nancy Wilson from Heart, the 80s band. Well, they predated the 80s.
She wrote a song called For Edward by Eddie Van Halen.
Is that actually who the Edward is in the...
Yeah.
In the song?
For Edward. Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that song the other day. It's I've made a bit of a Heart playlist because I'm off to see them next.
Wait a minute, how did you not realise that? It literally starts with the riff for Jump. Like, how did you not know that?
I don't read up, dude. I listen to music. I don't read up on songs or know all the history.
No, but it literally starts with the fucking riff.
I would play that song right now, but I don't want to get copyrighted to hell and back on YouTube, so I will listen to that afterwards.
But yeah, she wrote an acoustic song for Edward, and it was for Eddie Van Halen.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. And then he writes an acoustic song like Spanish Fly.
I
But
think he
it's
gave her like a guitar years ago or something. I can't remember what the story was, but he gave her like a guitar. She wrote that on acoustic or something.
uh-huh. So yeah, Nancy Wilson was up for grabs. Roseanne, apparently, Jennifer Saunders, and a whole bunch of other people too. I can't believe, like, because I've just heard Pat Carroll do the voice for the character. I can't imagine anyone else playing that character. She brings so much personality to it. That like really filthy laugh that she has, and just the proportions of the character, the way that they animate her and everything. She is literally larger than life. I love the line. It's in the character's intro. It's where she's like, "And look at me now, wasting away until I'm practically nothing." Like yeah, she's great. You got the Flotsam and Jetsam as well. It's kind of a trope with a lot of these Disney villains. They either have an animal sidekick or they have two henchmen. It reminds me of like Madame Medusa from The Rescuers had the two crocodiles. Did we have one from a couple of weeks ago? Oh, we had last week with Bill Sykes and the two dogs. And then this one you've got Flotsam and Jetsam, the two eels.
They should have called him Biggs and Wedge.
Yes.
Yes,
they should. I get. Yeah, I know. I get that reference. I get it. Yeah, I've loved this. Now, you told me a bit of information about the character, well, the behind the scenes that I completely wasn't aware of at all.
I'm fucking glad they didn't do this. But what was it? Was Ursula was meant to be, because there are storyboards you can look at on YouTube. And Ursula was meant to be Triton's sister, and I fucking hate that. I just do not like, because maybe it's because the story worked before knowing that, and it was like, well, what was the point in that? You know, what I mean, it's like Michael Myers becoming fucking Laurie Strode's brother. Why? Why did we do that? Like, that was just, you know, it's the same thing. Like, it was unneeded. I didn't like it, but that was, I think it was the original draft. Yeah, she was meant to be his sister, and it was just weird. I don't like it.
Yeah, the only holdover we have from that now is again in Ursula's introduction where she says, when I was younger or something, we had fantastical feasts when I lived in the palace. That's it. That's the only bit of info that we get, that she used to live among the other merfolk. But yeah, in the original draft, and it's actually on the DVD, there's two deleted scenes, and the first of which is an extended version of the Fathoms Below song, which was meant to be this much longer, much more expository introduction to the film. It was going to go into a lot more detail about sort of like the deep lore, if you will, of King Triton and the merfolk and the kingdom, and also Ursula. And it was going to, you know, they said like, oh, King Triton is king of the merfolk, and he's got a witch of a sister called Ursula. And it went all into this, and they had a few more verses of the song sprinkled through. It would have definitely changed the dynamic. We were having this conversation before we went live a little bit, where it would be, she'd be like trying to kill her niece, basically, or screw over her niece, wouldn't it? Because Ursula would be Ariel's auntie. And I was kind of drawing comparisons to what we'll eventually get with Scar, where it's like another sibling trying to dispatch the nephew. So it would have been a bit similar to that. I think it works without that. I don't think you really need all of that. And you get an idea by that line being in the film that she used to be in the palace, that there's that animosity there between her and Triton, especially when you get to like the final conflict of the film. But yeah, I don't think she needed to be family related to Ariel. I think it was just pointless, really. So they made a good decision there, I think. The only other deleted scene was sort of like a reworking of the ending, where Ursula becomes huge and has a fight with Eric, and she was originally going to die by she's drowning Eric under the water, with like hold him under the water with her tentacles, and he's reaching for the trident that's fell into the water, and Sebastian picks up the trident and sort of lifts it up to Eric, and Eric just throws it and impales Ursula that way. And kills her. I think the way that they went, Ariel gets pretty much knocked out right from the off. She's not sort of trapped in that vortex. She gets thrown by Ursula into a rock, which knocks her out, and then she starts to sink. And it's pretty much Eric that does everything at the end. So I think having that last minute moment where Ursula's about to make the killing strike on Ariel, and she resurrects all the shipwrecks, I thought that's a really cool shot where they're all in the maelstrom, and she still gets a really grisly death. Like, she still gets impaled, so the mode of death is consistent between the deleted scene and the final version. But yeah, I think it's just a bit more exciting. It's a bit more cinematic the way they went with it, and yeah, I think it works.
It's this movie that makes you think maelstroms are going to be more of a thing than they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go out to sea and it's going to be a big maelstrom, but they're really not that big. Like, you will be on a ship and there'll be a maelstrom and you will go over it because they're not that big. But this made you think that maelstroms are going to be much more dangerous than they actually are. It's like when you're a kid, you think that quicksand is going to be much more of a fucking issue in life than it actually is, but it's not.
Mm.
And that's what this did with maelstroms, and it's weird, but you know, it looks cool.
Yeah, it ain't like Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, where you're having this like
Where you
epic.
fucking
Yeah.
I fucking, you know what, that kept me up at night. I kept thinking, what if I fall off the edge of the earth?
Just
It didn't really.
just fill the sink and just swirl your finger around, and you create a little mini whirlpool in the sink.
Do you ever do that? Do you ever do that with a glass, like with a bottle, and you're like, oh, maelstrom?
Yeah. When I get bored, usually I'll do it. Yeah. Let's see other characters. Sebastian was originally meant to be a posh British butler crab. I think it was Howard Ashman actually that wanted him to be changed to, like a Caribbean crab with a Jamaican accent. Perfect for the character. Like, I can't imagine a different voice. Does it really make sense of where they are in the ocean? Probably not. There's probably like a whole bunch of sea creatures in the film that would never meet in the same spot, but it just works. I've become accustomed to that voice. Samuel E. Wright doing the character.
He died.
Yeah, he did. Was that a few years ago, if I remember?
I
2021.
Yeah,
2021.
But yeah, like it was. I think he was great. I don't think there's any, there's no reason for him to be any different. I couldn't imagine him being British or, anything else like that.
Yeah, definitely. A character that I wanted to mention as well, and when I was watching it the other day, I sent this to you. Weirdly, other than Ursula, because Ursula's great, the villain song and everything, we'll talk about the music in just a second, is Scuttle, the seagull. Now, I haven't watched the live-action version, nor do I plan to, nor will I ever watch it, but I'm aware of what they do to Scuttle's character in the new live-action version. Awkwafina plays Scuttle, and she has a song in the movie which has become quite infamous called Scuttlebuttin' or Scuttlebutt, and it's the most horribly offensive thing to the ears that you will ever hear. I don't want to share it. I don't want to play it. It's fucking abysmal, and it's like you had like a very simple thing to do. Like, Scuttle's not a major character; he's just a supporting character. He's a bit of comic relief.
I was told by an ex-girlfriend that I look like Scuttle. That was a comparison I wanted.
Is it the aesthetically pleasing configuration of hair that he does with the dingle hopper?
Maybe it's just because I comb my hair with I don't know. Like, maybe that's the thing.
You comb your hair with a fork. That must be it.
Yeah, maybe there's a similarity there.
There's still that one joke in the film that always gets me. I think it's just the voice and the delivery of the character. There's just two moments. It's the bit where he's got the telescope. It's where we first introduced to him, actually. And he's like, mermaid off the port bow. Whoa, what a swim. Yep. Like, I love that bit. And then the bit where he's trying to explain that Ursula is in disguise as Vanessa, and he's trying to like desperately tell Sebastian and Flounder what's happening, and he goes like, okay, well I was flying, and well, of course I was flying, and then I just the delivery of the character, I think it's really clever. King Triton's voiced by Grandpa Longneck from the Land Before Time, so there you go. There's another Land Before Time reference for you.
I feel like we've never talked about that movie before.
I think the Land Before Time references are closing in on the Van Halen references at this point. I
know. It's bad, but I don't know why we talk about Land Before Time. Nothing sad happens in that movie.
Is there any other character I wanted to... Oh yeah, just a bit of behind the scenes on one of the voice actors here, because bit of a Disney legend in his own right, and I actually didn't know about this today. So the voice actor is Ben Wright. He plays the character of Grimsby in the movie. He's like the old codger that's following Prince Eric around, trying to look out for him. And he was voiced by, yeah, as I said, Ben Wright, and he played Roger Ratcliffe in 101 Dalmatians, and also did the voice of Rama the wolf in The Jungle Book. This was his last film role, and apparently he died 4 months before its release. I didn't know that. I wouldn't have even connected that those two voices were the same. Then again, I keep forgetting it. It's only been a few weeks for us. There's a lot of years between 101 Dalmatians and this movie. So, yeah, I guess that checks out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it.
With Oliver Company in this.
Yes, yeah. So that kind of does it for characters, I think. I think we've pretty much talked about every single one. Probably one of the best Disney villains, I'd say, with Ursula in the movie. I always get a kick out of watching
I
this.
don't think so. I really don't think so. She's cool. She's good, but I think she's just there. She's basic. I don't think of her as one of the top. Like if you're to think of top Disney villains, I think Jafar and Hades, not because he's a great villain, but because he's just great. And
the personality of the character for me.
Hades, I think Ursula's she's cool. She's there, but I wouldn't even rate her in the top 5.
I think, top 5. That's a discussion for another time. I don't know if she'd make my top 5. I'd have to think about that. I just love I love the personality of the character, the voice, and how it translates into the animation. I think it's just perfect. Apparently, the look of Ursula was based on a drag performer at the time called Divine. So there you go.
I did hear that. Yes, I did hear that. Yes.
Let's talk about the music then, because as I alluded to at the beginning of the review, the music makes this movie, and it doesn't just make this movie, it makes a lot of the upcoming Disney movies with that framework, that decision to make it like a Broadway musical, which proved to be wildly successful in my opinion. So the great Alan Menken, I would rank Alan Menken up there, at least for me, as one of the best composers who's ever lived. And I don't care if that's hyperbole, I genuinely believe that. The music that he's produced for, not only for his own productions and his own theatre things like Little Shop of Horrors, but all of the Disney movies he's been a part of have been absolutely outstanding. It's music that will last with me for ages. Catchy, moving, funny, so versatile with all of the score, and the songs that he writes to, obviously with lyrics from Ashman and various other contributors along the way. But yeah, the music's just really important to me. And if I have to pick a favourite from this movie, God, I mean, every single one's great. You've got a fantastic villain song in there with Poor Unfortunate Souls, which really builds at the end and gets, crazy. And then Ursula starts talking in tongues, where she does like that summoning spell to get the voice out of Ariel.
I would say Part of Your World. That's gotta be number one.
Yeah,
that just has to be. And there was a reason. I can't remember why. I just think it's just the most significant. I think like it's great. It's not because the thing is, obviously people remember Under the Sea. Like big fucking big tune. Like it's the big song, but it's kind of like. When like bands would have like your big song, like for instance, like Extreme has Play With Me and fucking More Than Words. It's like that. Like this has got Under the Sea and then Part of Your World. It's like the softer song, but I think this is. I'd say this is the number one.
It's it'd be up there for me too. It's probably going to be my number one. Have you ever seen The Little Shop of Horrors, the musical?
No, yeah, a long time ago I did.
There's a song in that, obviously, that predates this film, and Howard Ashman and Alan Menken worked on that together as well. That the main heroine of the film sings, called Somewhere That's Green. Family Guy did a skit on it where Herbert, the paedophile, sings it. Somewhere that's green, and he like imagines this idyllic life living with Chris and raising a family and everything. But that song, it's so very, very similar to what Part of Your World would be. So it feels like he's used a lot of the ideas from that song and the structure of that song, and
wait,
it just sounds very similar.
Family Guy first came out in 1999, didn't it?
Yeah, it came out in the 90s, yeah.
Because you're older than Family Guy, aren't you?
I guess so, yeah.
No, I'm just... Yes. Yeah, no, that wasn't the point. The point I was making was So, like, isn't it weird that Family Guy names the character that was sought after by a paedophile was named after you?
I don't know if it was named after me, but like...
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could have been. There's no proof.
But yeah, Part of Your World would probably be my favourite too. I really like Kiss the Girl though as well. I really like that melody and just the animation
You
in
know what
that
I
bit where they
love
go
about
into like
that?
the Blue Lagoon and everything. Yeah.
Do you know what I love about that song? That they had to change it for the fucking remake
I
because
was
it was
gonna
fucking
say, yeah.
sexual. I can't remember what they changed it to. Like I read it this morning and it was so insignificant that I don't actually remember what it was really weird. But it's yeah, but they changed it because it's rape, which is quite funny.
Yeah, which is it's completely not that you can't read that with that scene at all because it's nothing to do with that at all. He's very nervous and like he doesn't know what he's doing and he's got to overcome his own insecurities through that. Um,
Well, there you
so
go.
yeah, it's not about that at all. It's just a really really nice song, and I love the build on it, and yeah, so that sticks with me quite a lot as well. But it would be Part of Your World, I think. Which interestingly enough, I mentioned the whole Jeffrey Katzenberg thing, trying to sabotage all these fucking films that we love. That song, arguably, well, the one that won the Oscar, the main one that gets a reprise at the end, the one that everyone remembers, was nearly cut from the film. Um, Apparently, it tested poorly with children, and they became quite rowdy during that first screening of the film. And Katzenberg freaked out and said they need to cut that song. But the director and you know Menken and everyone said absolutely not. This song is so important to the film and needs to stay in. And I think once the film was polished up a little bit and it was more in a finalized state, they did a second test screening and everyone, with color, and people took to it more then. And they cited that Over the Rainbow was nearly cut as well from the original Wizard of Oz film for exactly the same reason. You can't imagine that now, can you? Because it is the most pivotal, memorable song from that movie. So yeah, we almost had a version of Little Mermaid without that song. Now, a similar thing would happen in a few films' time, which I've already mentioned to you, with a certain Disney's Pocahontas, where the main love theme from that was removed from the film, and it was put back in for the 10th anniversary DVD, I think it was, which I now own. It's the only DVD. It's the only way that you can watch the film complete with the song added in there. Even Disney Plus hasn't added that song, not even into the film, let alone even as a deleted scene. So
Miley Cyrus covered Part of the World.
Did she? I think a lot of people have. I know that Olivia Newton-John did.
That is a thing, yeah.
Yeah.
That I just found.
So that's it for music. I guess in terms of behind the scenes or anything else, it's really just animation on this one now. So it was kind of the last of a dying breed, this film, but it was also a very exciting time for what would be to come for the animation company itself. So it says The Little Mermaid. This marks the last time that the use of traditional hand-painted cell method was used for animation. Where they do every single individual frame, I would assume. And even like stuff like the Xerox, the xerography thing they were using since 101 Dalmatians, that was kind of getting phased out too. From the next film that we're talking about next week, The Rescuers Down Under, that apparently used a new digital method. So digital was coming in a lot more, and there were just greater things they could do from the technologies by Disney and Pixar combined. They could just digitally color all of the cells, and it meant that they didn't need to use things like the multi-plane camera, that kind of technique where they'd pan through an environment and they'd have the background element in the foreground, the one closest to the camera, would be moving a lot quicker and everything behind it would be moving much slower. So that's where you had those like wonderful pan through the forest in like the beginning of Bambi, for example, and they used it in Pinocchio. They used it a lot in the older ones. It basically made that obsolete now because technology was moving on, and they could just do this through various different optical effects on the computer. We still had a few more 3D computer generated imagery is in this film as well. It was used on the horse and cart when Eric and Ariel are doing a tour through the kingdom. What else? On the shipwrecks at the end, which I could tell.
Where's it set again?
I actually don't know. I was wondering that. I think it was a Danish. Wasn't it a Danish story? I think.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, which I don't think
Beauty and the Beast is France.
Yeah,
because it's set around there. It's that European kind of, like, it's set around that, you know.
Mm-hmm. And I was just gonna mention one other thing. Where was it? With like the new technologies, there was one shot in the film. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so it says Aladdin. So the two directors' next film that they would make used digital coloring using something called caps. They actually experimented with caps with this film, and there's one shot I think that shows in the final film, and it was the bit where the rainbow goes over the boat at the very end. They used that new technology for that to colour that one scene with this film. So in a way, it's kind of like a bridging film. It's, you know, all these wonderful technologies that were introduced to the studio, like xerography from 101 Dalmatians. It's using elements of that still, but it's also using these new technologies, which would then just be the norm moving forward with everything constantly advancing. So it's like this bridge movie, really, sort of sat in the middle. But I think from the formula that's created from this film, it's definitely fair to say that this kick-started the Disney Renaissance. A lot of people say it's from Beauty and the Beast, but to me, this kind of laid the foundation for what would be to come. It's difficult because there's a film sandwiched in between this and Beauty and the Beast that everyone forgets. I was going to say,
because I see this is part of it, whereas Rescuers Down Under, it's the forgotten one. Whereas, like, even as a kid, like, I loved Rescuers Down Under, but I never thought about, like, you know, when I thought about them being placed, there was obviously Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas, all that kind of shit. I never thought about Rescuers Down Under, even though I loved the movie. I never thought about, it goes in with them. It's so. I mean, obviously, next week we can really talk about how. What's the phrase? I was going to say, like, what's that word? What's that phrase when it's so
underrated?
No, not underrated. Left wing? No, not left wing. Like, you know, pivot. What's the do you know what you mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's so, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it felt very. It wasn't, like, completely out of place, but it's very, like you say, it's sandwiched between. It's not like. You know what I mean? If Little Mermaid, if they were in the other way around, that wouldn't feel out of place. That would feel more in place.
Oh, Carl's comes to rescue. He said, "Isn't it set in Copenhagen as they have the statue there?"
Isn't Copenhagen in?
Don't ask me. I'm pretty useless with geography. Denmark. Yes, it is. Yes, yeah. Which would make sense, but again, like, I don't think you'd have all of these sea creatures native to this part. And then Sebastian's Jamaican. So, you know, it's just...
Yeah, but mermaids aren't real, so...
Yeah, I know. Oh, don't say that. Now, every time you say that, a mermaid dies. Okay. Who are your favourite mermaids? The mermaids in this film or the mermaids in Peter Pan?
Mermaids in Peter Pan.
Yeah. Because they're murderous and scary.
I know, it's great, and that's a sad reason for me to like it. But yes, the mermaids in Peter Pan, and it's the whole, like, I like Tinker because she's jealous and she turns red, and it's just, this is why I'm single, because I go for, it's just, these are the wrong things. It's not a therapy session. Anyway.
Oh yeah, another thing I forgot to mention, sort of like these, going back to this film in a lot of ways does feel like a going back to basics kind of thing. It's sort of like a happy coincidence that either unbeknownst to the Disney company in the 1980s, or maybe they did know about this, but that Disney was working on this in the 1930s. It fits the mold of that very traditional fairy tale storytelling that they want to do. We've mentioned that throughout the Disney career at the moment with the films, there's certain films, usually the princess ones, which is more of a, right, we're resetting, we're going back to this, we're going back to basics. You have your original movie, Snow White. Then it kind of tails off when you get to like World War II, and then what do they do after that? Boom, they come back with Cinderella, and that's the next one that sort of puts them on the map. Sleeping Beauty was, I know it underperformed at the time, but that's kind of a big movie to me as well. And then when you get to this one, this to me is the next one. Like, oh, okay, this is, we're kind of hitting the reset button with this. But they used, and apparently this hadn't been done for a good amount of Disney films before this point, was using live action actors again as reference. Getting like theatre actors in, and so that the animators had something to work with. Now I know they did that with did they do that for Jungle Book and Aristocats? Maybe. So yeah, maybe they didn't do it from like Robin Hood onwards. When you get to like, I'm not sure, because I always think when I see stuff like Fox and the Hound, I'm looking at that thinking, wow, the humans are animated really good in that. They must have had reference for it. But apparently it wasn't used for the last few, which surprises me. So, yeah, it's using all of these familiar techniques, but it's like newer stuff's coming in. So it's a real special film for that. And yeah, I'm just glad the film turned out the way it did. Now, is this one of my all-time favourite Disney films? Probably not, no. I love the music from it. I love the imagery from it. And, some of the characters are larger than life. I don't know if it's the story, because the story is told very well. It's a relatively short movie. It gets in and out. It does everything that it needs to.
Yeah, it's under an hour and a half, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's like 70 minutes, 79 minutes. But I don't know if it's like, when you compare this film to stuff like Beauty and the Beast for me, or Aladdin, as I said, or like Hercules, I much prefer those films. That could just be like nostalgia. But I did have this film around. As a kid. I'll talk about this in a couple of weeks when we get to Beauty and the Beast, because I've definitely had the biggest change with that film. I never owned Beauty and the Beast growing up, and I didn't watch it until they brought out the special edition, which put the Human Again song back into it. And even then, when I watched it, I was never a massive fan of it, and then I kind of came around to it more. So I don't know if it's just because Little Mermaid's more in that similar vein. It could be down to the fact that maybe Katzenberg was right. Maybe it was geared more towards, girls, like a female audience for it. And maybe that's why I didn't connect with it as much growing up. That being said, I loved films like Sleeping Beauty, and I'd watch that loads. I loved the dragon, I loved Maleficent, I loved the swashbuckling kind of feel to it towards the end. But yeah, like it's absolutely unequivocally a Disney classic. It's so important for the company and what it springboards into. But if you line up all the Disney Renaissance films, I probably wouldn't go to this one straight away. I'd be more inclined to go with one of the others.
I feel like it's your very Disney movie, if that makes sense. Like you watch it and it's very what you see a Disney movie as. But that might be because I grew up in the 90s. I don't know, but it's very what you see a Disney movie as. It's fun, it's musical, it's got the female protagonist and evil witch, and like what I mean? It's very cliche Disney.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was I'd say it was a pleasure going back to it. I think I watched this film last year, so I've watched it fairly recently. So it's not like one I haven't watched in a long time. Carl says, check out The Mermaid in Splash. Oh, I have. Daryl Hannah is very good to look at in Splash.
Daryl Hannah, is she in Kill Bill?
She is in Kill Bill. Yeah, Ellie Driver.
That's it. Thought so.
Don't watch the Disney Plus version though of Splash.
Yeah, never do.
Because they
Little Mermaid.
They CGI'd. There's a scene where she's on a beach, and she turns her back to the camera and she runs into the water, and you see a bare ass in the original movie, and it's Daryl Hannah's ass from the 80s. It's a good ass. She looks absolutely banging. Disney Plus, I guess they're offended by nudity, so they did a George Lucas special edition change to it, and CGI. They extended her hair through CGI to cover her ass when she ran away. So watch the original version. You gotta do it for Daryl Hannah's ass. You know what to do. Anyway, next week, number 29, we are talking about the criminally underrated Rescuers Down Under. Another really nice slipcover there, actually. I really love the colour on that. It's fucking Gwei here, the Lord of all the Eagles from Middle Earth is what it is. The fucking
Let's,
giant golden eagle.
let's
Now,
go.
this film I haven't watched in a long, long time. Genuinely can't remember the last time I watched this. So, 74 minutes, even less than The Little Mermaid. This is going to be an absolute pleasure to watch. You've got the likes of John Candy in this. One of my favourite comedians. The soundtrack's great. I remember the animation being awesome. It's a great adventure. I'm so looking forward to jumping back into this again. Is this the yeah, that's the video cover that I had, the bright pink one. Just remember that. It's just
Yep.
yeah, it's good. Now, if in a conversation about sequels that are better than the original, some might say Empire Strikes Back, all these films, Godfather Part 2 that gets
I
listed.
disagree.
Why is this never on the list? This blows the original out of the water, and yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm really looking forward to reading the behind the scenes for this one as well, because it seems like such a random film to do a sequel to. And as we said, this is the first Disney sequel right here. This is in terms of the classics line. So that's kind of a big deal in its own right. I'm just very confused
But
about
no one remembers
the
it.
timing. Yeah, I'm just confused about the timing of this one. Mind you, I think didn't you say like the original Rescuers was like super super successful? So I don't know, maybe it had maybe it had an
Yeah.
audience.
Maybe it seems it's a weird one to do. It's a weird one to like if someone was to go, what's the first Disney sequel that was a fucking classic? Like it's not the first you think of.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's an interesting choice. It's a very good choice. It's a great fucking movie, and it's just but it's an interesting choice. It's not one you think of at first.
No, it always gets overlooked. Sandwiched in between two absolute
But
juggernauts of Little
maybe
Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast.
But maybe the thing is as well, and what we'll probably realize when we watch it next week is the whole, how it's kind of like, okay, we had a good idea. I like these characters, but let's make like this is the proper movie, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? This is the kind of the last one. Yeah, was your prototype. Let's make a proper one.
Mm.
You know, like I don't know, but we might like see it differently because I haven't watched it in years either. But it might be one of those where it feels, and I haven't read any behind the scenes yet, so it could be one of those where someone goes, you know what, I wanted to make this a thing, wasn't really happy with the first product, so we decided to do a sequel, and this is our fucking Disney classic.
Mm. Yeah, we'll see. So that's going to be next week. That's next Monday. Can't wait for that one. We are also coming up to the 30th anniversary of The Lion King through happy coincidence. So
That means I'm almost 30. Yay.
we might have to juggle a few around or do 2 in a week at some point, because I think we are going to try and get that Lion King one out to coincide with the 30th. If we can, fingers crossed, we're going to try and do that. Carl says, random point, but is that your guitar case near the radiator? Yes, it is. He said, if so, be careful as the heat can damage the wood if you have to turn it on. Oh, the guitar isn't in the case. It's just the case over there, my dude. All my guitars are down here. I think that case... Is it that one? Yeah, I think that's my my Charvel case. I don't know guitars. I don't know guitars so much. Like, Dale, I was sending you screenshots of a music video. I was like, Dale, can you
You know
help,
what? You sent me
help tell
screenshots of the
what
music
this...
video, and it was a really distant guitar, and I was like, I feel like that's a Jackson, but it was so small, really far away that I was like, I feel like that's a Jackson. I don't think it was a Charvel, but I feel like it was a Jackson.
So I've sent
like...
I've sent those pictures to a few people. I think 4 people, including yourself. You're saying a Jackson. From another person I had that it's a Jackson Dinky.
It's kind of like if you sent me a really blurry picture and said this is Ariana Grande's vagina, we'll point to it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the same sort of shit. It's like, do you really know what it is? It's that was how high quality it was.
Believe me, those are the best shots from the music video. It's that was it. That was it. What else did I have? Someone said it was a Charvel, and I think that was it. Jackson. Oh, then someone said a Kramer. So it's a Kramer, a Charvel, a Jackson, or a Jackson Dinky. I don't know.
It's not a Kramer.
Look, I just relatively play the guitar, okay? I don't know all the ins and outs of them, unfortunately. But I appreciate you looking out for my guitar, man, by giving me that advice.
I want to know the ins and outs of Ariana Grande. So.
Yes. I agree. And on that very fishy bombshell, we will end the review there. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in and commented, keeping the conversation going. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in and taking time out of your bank holiday Monday to watch us today. We will be back next Monday. I'll try and do another stream or so before, if I can, if I think of something that I want to talk about. There's a couple of new films out I want to see. I still haven't seen the new Planet of the Apes movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I really want to see, and the new Mad Max film that doesn't star Mad Max at all. Furiosa is meant to be kind of alright as an action movie. It hasn't done well. It's completely flopped. I know that. So, but yeah, I'll try and get to the cinema if I can this week, and you might see reviews on that. If not, the next one. Next week. 8 p.m. Rescuers Down Under. Be there.
Monday. The 3rd of July. June. 3rd of June. I am working that day, but it's not